what happens when a popular TV star, a shocking late-night incident, and a deeply divided country all intersect at the same time. That's the story of Jussie Smollett, an actor who once seemed to have the world at his feet before his name became attached to one of the most polarizing controversies of the past decade. Back in 2019, Smollett reported that he had been the victim of a hate-filled attack in Chicago, an event that instantly made headlines across the globe. For many, the details were shocking. A young black, gay actor allegedly targeted with slurs, beaten, and left with a noose around his neck. But in the days and weeks that followed, the story began to shift in ways no one could have predicted. Now, years later, Netflix has released a brand new documentary called The Truth About Jussie Smollett that reopens the case, featuring unheard voices, unseen footage, and fresh insights from the people at the center of it all. Before the scandal, Jussie Smollett was known primarily for his breakout role on Empire, a drama created by Lee Daniels and Danny Strong that followed a powerful music family in New York City. Smollett played Jamal Lyon, a talented singer-songwriter who quickly became a fan favorite because of his authenticity, his musical performances, and his ability to represent experiences that hadn't often been highlighted on mainstream network television. Alongside Taraji P. Henson and Terrence Howard, Smollett became part of a cultural phenomenon, and with his music career on the rise and growing recognition in Hollywood, the future looked limitless. That's why the events of 2019 sent shockwaves through not only the entertainment world but also American society at large. The alleged attack took place on a freezing January night in Chicago. Smollett told police that he had been confronted by two men who shouted slurs, referenced political slogans, poured an unknown liquid on him, and placed a noose around his neck. The imagery was disturbing, and it struck a nerve. The moment the story broke, it dominated every major news outlet, social media platform, and talk show. Fans and fellow celebrities rushed to show support, politicians issued statements of solidarity, and ordinary people expressed outrage at what was being described as a hate crime motivated by racism and homophobia. In a country already grappling with issues of race, identity, and political division, the incident hit hard. But then came the turn no one expected. Within weeks, Chicago authorities shifted the investigation and introduced a completely different theory, that Smollett had orchestrated the attack himself. The Osendero brothers, Abimbola and Olabinjo, claimed that Smollett had hired them to stage the assault. Overnight, the narrative flipped. Instead of being seen purely as a victim, Smollett was suddenly accused of deception. Prosecutors charged him with filing false police reports, sparking one of the most dramatic reversals in recent memory. For many, the story went from heartbreaking to confusing, and then to polarizing. Some believed the brothers, others stood by Smollett, but either way, the case quickly became a lightning rod for debate across the nation. The new Netflix documentary, directed by Gagan Rehil, dives straight into this turning point. It doesn't just recycle old headlines. It introduces never-before-seen material, fresh interviews, and first-hand accounts from those involved. What makes it especially compelling is that Smollett himself finally speaks out, something he hasn't done publicly since his sit-down with Robin Roberts back in 2019. For years, he has remained silent, leaving the public to speculate, debate, and fill in the blanks. Now, in his own words, he reflects on the events, the fallout, and the toll this entire saga has taken on his personal life and his career. Whether audiences believe him or not, his perspective provides a missing piece that many have been waiting for. The documentary also gives significant space to the Osendero brothers, whose testimony changed the course of the investigation. Over time, they've been portrayed in drastically different ways depending on which narrative one followed. In the film, they share their experiences directly, recounting their relationship with Smollett, the events of that night, and the aftermath that followed. This is the first time viewers can hear their voices in long form, unedited by soundbites or court transcripts. By putting their accounts alongside Smollett's, the documentary allows audiences to compare and contrast perspectives in a way that news headlines never fully captured. But the truth about Jussie Smollett isn't just about a single event, it's about the world in which that event took place. In 2019, the United States was already navigating deep cultural divides. The Trump era had heightened political tensions, the Black Lives Matter movement was continuing to expand its influence, and public trust in both the media and law enforcement was fractured. Smollett's story became the perfect storm, feeding into national debates about race, identity, truth, and credibility. The case wasn't simply about an attack, it was about what the incident symbolized in a divided America. That's what drew director Gagan Rehil to the project, and that's why the film resonates even years later. Rehil explained that in reviewing archives from the time, he noticed how the Smollett case encapsulated the broader atmosphere of the country. On one side, people saw an urgent reminder of how vulnerable marginalized communities could be. On the other, skeptics viewed it as a test of honesty and accountability, amplified by politics and media coverage. The case was debated on cable news, in Congress, and on social media feeds across the world. And while it may seem like a story about one man, it really became a reflection of how America reacts to crisis, controversy, and the search for truth. For Jussie Smollett himself, the consequences were career-altering. Once considered a rising star, he found himself sidelined. His role on Empire came to an abrupt end, new projects dried up, and his public image was reshaped almost overnight. The trial, the media circus, and the court of public opinion left scars that went beyond his resume. Yet, in the documentary, he presents himself not just as someone defending his reputation, but as someone searching for closure. Whether or not audiences grant him that chance remains to be seen, but the fact that he's willing to face the cameras again suggests he's ready to confront the story on. At the same time, the Osendero brothers' lives were also dramatically affected. They became central figures in a media whirlwind, their credibility scrutinized, their motives questioned, and their private lives dragged into the spotlight. In the film, they discuss not only their side of the events, but also what it felt like to suddenly be caught in a storm of international attention. Their inclusion is vital, because without their voices, the narrative risks feeling one-sided. Instead, viewers get to see the complexity of human decisions, relationships, and the ripple effects of one night in Chicago. One of the most powerful aspects of the documentary is how it makes audiences reflect on their own role. In today's world, where social media reacts instantly and public opinion forms in real time, the Smollett case highlights how quickly people can jump to conclusions. Within hours of the story breaking, millions had already taken sides, long before all the facts were available. The film forces us to confront how our instant reactions, whether supportive or skeptical, can shape not only individual reputations but also national conversations. It's a lesson in patience, perspective, and the dangers of rushing to judgment. Still, despite all the footage, interviews, and insights, the documentary doesn't tie everything up in a neat bow. For some viewers, Smollett's words may offer clarity and redemption. For others, doubts will remain, reinforced by conflicting evidence and lingering questions. And maybe that's the point. Instead of dictating what the audience should believe, the truth about Jussie Smollett challenges viewers to engage critically, weigh the perspectives, and acknowledge the gray areas. The truth, as the title suggests, may not be singular. It may be layered, complicated, and deeply personal. In the end, the documentary is less about declaring guilt or innocence and more about showing how one incident can expose the fractures within society. Jussie Smollett's case remains a cautionary tale about fame, about media, about the rapid speed of public opinion, and about the messy pursuit of truth. Whether you see him as a victim, a manipulator, or something in between, his story continues to raise important questions about accountability, empathy, and how we navigate controversy in the digital age. And as Smollett finally breaks his silence, the world is left to decide what to take away from this chapter. Not just about one man's choices, but about who we are as a society when headlines demand we pick a side.